I'm a Night Elf versus Random. Random is one of 4 races. We have a new viewer from the HOTS streams, ladies and gentlemen. So, apologies in advance if the explanation of the gameplay is going to be exceedingly simplistic for your liking, but I'd like to cater to this man. The real ripcord. Okay, so first of all, Warcraft 3 is an RTS with 4 different races. The races are more or less balanced, though not entirely, as you often see with races that are very different from one another. More or less balanced. But they are not balanced in a symmetrical way. Everyone has vastly different heroes and units. Now, Warcraft is an RTS, which is a real-time strategy, and you have not just units, but also heroes. You can have up to 3 heroes, and they are the cornerstone and generals of your army. They go up in experience when you kill neutral creeps, or mercs, and when you kill the opponent's units. The goal of the game is very simple. Destroy each and every of your opponent's structures. When you finish the last structure that they own, they instantly lose. Before that moment happens, players generally already know that they're going to be losing when they are losing. So it is far more customary for a player, when he sees that he's about to lose, to concede defeat, type GG or you suck, you noob, and leave the game. So the actual win condition is to kill all their buildings, but generally you force them to concede defeat already way before that. A typical game of Warcraft 3 starts either with scouting the opponent to see what they have, where they are, and will then proceed to do a little bit of initial harassment to slow them down or damage them and to keep tabs on them. Or it can start with creeping. Creeping is where you kill neutral creeps. This gives you experience. This gives you gold and items.
More lumber is required. More lumber is required. Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
I am Night Elf race this game, and I found that my opponent is undead. There are 3 layers of technology in this game. We call them Tier 1, Tier 2 and Tier 3. Tier 1 is where everyone starts. This generally allows you to make about 2 to 3 basic army units that comprise your early creeping army, your harassment, your defense, your lifeblood. After Tier 1, you can upgrade your main building, which for me is a Tree of Life, and for another player it might be a Great Hall, Town Hall, and so on. After the initial, you can upgrade your main building to the next tier, and it'll be called Tier 2. At Tier 2, you can hire a second hero. Until that point, you can only have 1. After that, you can have a second hero, and also more advanced tech, and more advanced units as well.
Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
A large part of Warcraft 3 is what units you make, and what heroes you make, and where do you send them. But an also very large part of Warcraft 3 is called micro. Micro is the act of effectively controlling... Hold on for a second, thank you very much. I'll answer after the game, really appreciate it. Micro is the art of effectively controlling the units that you have. Whereas macro is effectively moving around the map, doing things that need to be doing. Scouting, reacting, adapting, choosing your tech route, choosing your army choice, choosing your unit choice, and so on.
On your mark.
I have now amassed a sizable force of Tier 1 armies. 5 archers, and I hired 2 mercenaries. This is called a mercenary camp. It's a neutral structure where you can hire, for a price, extra units that do not have training time like normally units have. You can instantly hire them, and this is a big advantage. I've just finished tier 2 and I can now make additional unit producing structures. My first one was an Ancient of War. Ancient of War is a... Hold on, I'm gonna hide in shadows. Night elves can do this at night. The Ancient of War is your first unit producing structure. And now I'm making 2 Ancients of Lore, which is additional unit producing structures. He has opted to go with an early Dreadlord. The Dreadlord specializes in 3 different abilities. Every hero has 3 different abilities. And what the Dreadlord can do is he can put an enemy unit or hero to sleep, temporarily rendering them unusable. He can cast a Carrion Swarm, which is a swarm of bats that goes out in a certain direction and does damage to ground and air units. And he can also get the Vampiric Aura. This is a aura effect that helps every unit around him to gain Vampiric Aura, which is called which is a lifesteal. Every time a unit does melee damage, they gain a small portion of that damage in life. This is not useful for ranged units. So it's very important when you take that aura to keep going melee units the rest of the game, if you can at all. Undead has 4 types of melee units. They've got the very standard tier 1 Ghoul, a rather weak unit, but it can move quite fast and doubles as a worker miner. Can get lumber as well. They can make the Abomination, which is actually at tier 3.
More lumber is required.
And is a very strong melee unit, but it takes a while to get there. They also have heroes, like the Dreadlord himself and Death Knight. They are also melee and they can benefit from that aura. And then finally there's the Skeleton. Undead has various different ways to create skeletons. You can do it with a hero called the Dark Ranger. They can hire somewhere. You can do it with necromancers who can summon skeletons from the dead. They also have an item in their shop where they can purchase an item that raises skeletons from the dead as well. All my units are hurt. You can see the health bar over them. There are 2 ways for me to heal them up. One is at my Moonwells. This is the equivalent of my farm building. What a farm does is it allows you to sustain more units. If you look in the middle top of the screen, there's something that says 38 out of 50, and now it says 41 out of 50. Now 44 out of 50. The second number is my maximum supportable unit count. I can have units worth up to an aggregate of 50 food. Food is not consumed one time like in real life. It is a max sustainable amount of units.
Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
At last, my blade bursts.
The great outdoors.
The more Moonwells, or farms, or whatever you have, the larger army you can have at the same time.
Are we being invaded? What is nature's
I've now reached the cap, 50.
gladly?
If I want to make additional units now, I'll get a warning that I can't.
Create more moonwells.
My
What
blade
is nature's
bursts.
I would have to make more Moonwells in order to make more units.
We can't build them.
I'm starting another Moonwell. This will take a minute, so if you do poor macro and you're late with your Moonwells, you will be unable to keep producing. This could cost you vital seconds. He's right here, I just saw this with my Wisp. That's okay, he's going to have to town portal home. Currently he's not in position to defend his base. So, when I attack him, he will either have to take the long walk home, or he will have to use a scroll of town portal. This is a very expensive item. It can be used once to teleport the hero and all of his units back home to the main base.
Are we being invaded?
I'm now doing an attack that he will find very difficult to stop. He is going to try and attack me simultaneously in order to force my hand. It's an all-in. We move in on his acolytes as well.
What is nature's call?
And we summon a Scroll of the Beast and the Book of the Dead, which will cause a lot of damage in his base. In the meantime, he is attempting to take out my Tree of Eternity, and he may prove to be effective still. He used a Goblin Sapper in order to bolster his attack, but he will prove to be unfruitful at taking out my tree. He suffered massive losses in the process. Ideally, I would have made sure before I TP to leave a small portion of units at his base.
Insufficient gold.
In order to not just defend, but also keep up the pressure. I was unable to do so, but I'm still in a really good position because his attack failed. It was a fairly basic brute force attack. It was easily defended. I have made the way all the way to tier 3, where I can summon bears, Druids of the Claw, that offer bonuses to your army, such as healing and bonus damage. Some units have spells, others are just basic. And now we're gonna kill his Zeppelin, which will drop everything down to the ground floor. We have reached level 6. We are now able to cast Metamorphosis, one of the most powerful spells in the game. When heroes reach level 6, they get special abilities. They have the choice to choose their ultimate. I am now turned into a demon for 3 minutes long. I get a ranged attack that does chaos damage, splash damage, and I gain a large amount of bonus health. In an extreme act of desperation, he tries to distract me by dropping items on the floor, a laughable attempt. I pick up his items and add insult to injury. A sentry ward was gained. I use it to gain information in his base. He runs away with his tail between his legs. He unsummons his base. He's trolling hardcore. We try to kill his base before he can kill it himself. Metamorphosis has ceased. It lasts 1 minute. I said 3 minutes. It lasts just 1 minute. But it's so powerful. He calls GG. We win the game. Any questions, Ripcord? Yeah, you're welcome, TJs.